See, this is really interesting, Ryan, because I definitely want to. I've got a whole bunch of questions on the
Mm,
conscious cannabis situation and how you've become an expert at dealing or working with the medicinal value of cannabis and your course. And like I
mhm,
said in the intro, you have a wonderful offering for people, and
mm,
really, if they want more education on working with it productively, and the healing potential of it. But what I'm hearing you say is that I find it interesting that you, as the expert, use cannabis on weekends only. Um, which is wonderful. I mean, and I feel like, okay, well, maybe that's what works for Ryan. And
mhm.
there's like Tim Ferriss. What's the term he coined? Like minimum effective dose or
Yes,
whatever.
exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
MED. Yep.
Okay, MED. Thank you. So
Mhm,
everyone, whatever it is, whether it be exercise and the 4 minute leg workout, or the whole goal of life is not to do more and more and more and more and more and adding time. It's really what's the minimum amount of this I can have, do, or think, or whatever, and get the best result.
mhm,
So I'm kind of hearing you say, all right, weekends work for you. You found the perfect recipe for
mhm.
for you to be productive and balanced, and the flow and the go. um but what about someone that maybe feels like, okay, but I am using cannabis not me, but I
Mhm,
am using cannabis every day,
mhm,
just a little bit, and
mhm,
I've learned to listen to my body, because I've known my body. There's been days where I overdo it, and then I
mhm,
have bad reactions, and now I've learned to really embody and check in. So when my body tells me that's enough, no
mhm,
more, like you play the guitar
mhm,
and you take a nap or whatever you said, is that's it. um so how, like, say maybe they're using it almost like coffee, right? Like some people have coffee every day, and like
mhm.
Paul Chek talks about, he has one espresso every day. If he had two, he'd be wrecked. One is the perfect minimum effective dose.
Mhm.
So how much of it, Ryan, is we just have to know ourselves and be body aware to know this is not working for me, as opposed to now it's becoming an addiction and a crutch? Could there be a
Yes.
person that does use it every day, but it is working? Is that possible?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought this up, because one of the things that I want everyone who's listening to be aware is that I'm not here to tell you how much cannabis is healthy for you or not healthy, how much you should use it, what days you should use it, anything. The main reason I use it on weekends is because I know from my own origin story that I have a pattern of numbing out with cannabis. And
Okay.
this was a really interesting revelation for me because I worked 5 years in the industry, met with over 5,000 patients and helped them through a lot of this unconscious use and things like that. And for me, I've always been a nighttime user. I would interact with one bowl of cannabis every night. And I did that for about 10 years, right? Every single night. Couldn't remember a day I took off, right? And so I in my head, I was like, well, hey, I'm functional. I thought my relationship with cannabis was healthy. The only reason why I stopped doing that was because I actually had this, it's a really funny story, actually, but I had this awakening moment in Las Vegas at a strip club with Rachel, right? Where we went there, we interacted with some other medicines. And when we were leaving, we ended up staying too late. We just had a blast. We had never been to a strip club before. We were in Vegas. We went to this big cannabis convention to find investors to start our own dispensary. And we thought we're going to find people that understand what love grown cannabis is. And for everyone listening, I grow cannabis in a very specific way. I'm not the only one that does it, but there's very few people that do it the way I do it. And so I was like, hey, I want to go find someone who understands what I'm talking about and will back this. So we went out there, and it was essentially all finance and real estate people that only cared about money. And so we got really depressed when we went there. And
Yeah.
so one of the last nights we were like, hey, it's our last night in Vegas. What do we do? She was like, can we go to a strip club? I've never been to one. I'm like, I've never been to one either. So we went, and it was super
Talk
fun.
about going big, and you went in
Yeah.
Vegas. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not like,
exactly.
Salisbury.
Yeah. And so we went and we had a blast. It was so much fun. We ended up just talking to a lot of the strippers. We asked them about their lives. It was so much fun. It was pretty much like we could have hit record and made podcasts. It was super fun. They were like,
Oh,
you guys
wow.
are interesting. Like, you're not worried about anything the normal people in here are worried about or wanting us to do. You just want to talk. And it was super fun. So when we left too late. And she was working on a big project at that time for an Illinois dispensary, writing out a whole application, which you want to talk about things that you and I would never want to do. And for any other visionaries / like people that love networking, writing out an 800-page application to do with legal things and things like that. Yeah, yikes. Like I hear the sound of like horror movie music in the background. And so she was planning on working on this on the plane ride home. We didn't leave the strip club till like 8 a.m, and we were going to get in the plane at 1. And so like she had this kind of moment where she was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And in that moment, I felt her low, like I empathized with her. And I realized in that moment, whoa, I'm like feeling something. And then I changed it to I'm feeling. And I was like, when was the last time I've actually felt feelings? And I realized that since my dad had passed away, I hadn't felt anything. I had numbed myself out, not just with cannabis, like just in life in general, cycles of busyness, working out, all of it all hit me in a nanosecond. Wow. And so I started communicating with my soul on the plane ride home, pounding migraine, just like, whoa. And it was the best moment of my life. I was so blissed out, literally with a pounding migraine on a plane going home to Boston. And I realized that like, oh my God, I need to take a solid break from cannabis. And to cannabis's credit, like the plant had been giving me signs that I needed to do that. I just wasn't listening because I didn't want to look at it. Because like Paul says, when you become conscious of something, most people don't want to become conscious because once they do, they either have to fix it and remediate it or live with the suffering of knowing they're not doing what they should be doing. And so in that moment, I realized, okay, I need to take a break. And I went cold turkey, 3 months, no cannabis. And in that time, I started highly optimized. I started doing all this stuff. And after 3 months, I sat with cannabis again and started forming this relationship. And the plant started communicating. Do you see how now you were holding yourself back by using me? Do you see how you actually didn't know what I do at all? And so that was when I started forming this thing. And so there'll be times where I go on vacation, right, where I'm out at Paul's or whatever, and I'll interact with cannabis on weekdays and I'll smoke for a week straight. And then I know coming home, put the structure back in because I'm not naive enough to believe that, I could totally use it every night and it wouldn't happen, right? It's about knowing yourself. And so I know people that interact with cannabis all day, every day, and they have a healthy relationship as far as I can tell with it, right? Like they're creating, they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. That just wasn't my personal story with it. And so what I would say is that the main thing here is asking yourself why you're using something.